Hi, how's everyone doing today?
Good.
Nice. All right. Let me start up by welcoming you here to the talk. We're going to dive into a case study on a user's real-world path to OpenStack with Big Fish Games. And we'll do introductions in a second here. We're going to do a little bit different format. We're not going to go through a pile of slides because I assume you've seen enough slides in the last 2 days, and we'll see for the next 2 days. And we just want to go into a Q&A session with us, Blue Box, the provider, and Big Fish Games, the customer. So first of all, I'm Hernan Alvarez, the Vice President of Product and Operations for Blue Box. Blue Box has a company with 10 years of operating experience in managed hosting, 3 global data centers, about 600 customers worldwide. Our primary focus today is private hosted OpenStack, which is a fully managed offering where we take care of all the troubles, our data center, our network, our hardware procurement. We let you focus on working with OpenStack, not on OpenStack, which is what we're here to talk about today with Big Fish. And to my left here is Andreas Stollar. Andreas, do you want to give yourself an introduction?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Andreas Stollar. I'm a senior architect at Big Fish Games. Big Fish Games has been around for about 12 years. It's become a leading provider of casual games, which probably none of you guys play, but anyway, lots of people do, and that's why I'm here. I've been there for about a little over 8 years. During that time, the company's grown from about 70 to about 700 employees, 40 million to well over $250 million in revenue. A typical game model is you download a game, and if you like it, you can buy it. That was a very simple thing, and over that time we've grown up to 3 data centers. We have about 1,500 servers, and to support the downloadable game business, we're now pushing over 40 gigabits of traffic. We do make some games in our studio, but we typically contract with about over 500 partners who make games and sell their games exclusively through our marketplace and e-commerce site.
So a pretty large and well-established IT organization.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of practices and procedures in place. So you recently had a change in business model where you added a new style of game, free to play, and there's some challenges with that. Do you want to dive into what the free to play model is and some of the challenges in delivering that?
Right. So both mobile and free to play presented 2 new challenges. The free to play games seems to be the wave of the future, and in that situation, instead of downloading an executable and having it lock out after an hour and then you have to buy it, you download the game, you can keep playing, you can grind away forever, but you can also buy a little, magic dust and diamonds and chips. So if you like the casino game, you should really play that casino game, actually, in the game as you're going. And that model has proved very successful, and we're just a couple of years into that. The challenge of that is that, we're working with well over 500 developers, and for them it was, fire and forget model, kind of like UDP games. They gave us the game, and we put it on our servers, and you could download it, and they were done. After that, they were completely done. Yep. Well, now we've got all these developers, which to support in-game purchases, we need a back-end infrastructure to support these games, and each game needs its own back-end infrastructure because each game's a unique entity. So that's a new challenge for us, and all these mobile developers, partners, free-to-play game partners are mostly game developers, and some of them have very little server-side experience writing server-side code. So that we have to help them along a little bit. We can't just send them off.
So your previous infrastructure was more of a traditional IT architecture and access controls, and the devs were, the third-party developers, the 500 third-party developers were not satisfied with this. It was deemed as unfriendly?
Yeah, I mean, so traditionally we'd grown up with in-house developers. We had our nice development environments, QA, stage environments. They were all in-house, and since they were all employees, that was very easy to do. Well, now we're looking at signing up these partners that need development environments and such, but they aren't actually employees. So we need to give them VPN accounts that made the InfoSec guys and the company pull their hair out. we had to sign contracts and non-disclosure agreements to get the VPN going, and after about 28, 29 days, we'd get their VPN account squared away and all their access done. 30th day, the account would shut off due to InfoSec policy. To go back and re-enable it, it was painful. So it took us, a month to onboard one developer on one game. It was really terrible.
So the next logical step is you start diving into public cloud. You go out, use one of the providers out there, and you had some experience with that was mixed.
Mixed. I mean, it was certainly the most scalable. We went to Amazon AWS like everybody else did years ago. It was poking around with the cloud. And that worked fine, and we were able to spin up as much instances as we needed and could give our partners access very easily because it wasn't in our infrastructure. But I mean, the performance in Amazon is terrible, and if you're running 24/7, it gets very expensive, especially because of the performance. We had to basically overbuild everything. I mean, it was crazy. I/O performance in the databases was so horrible. We would mash together 4 elastic block storage units into software RAID to try to squeak some kind of I/O performance out of it. But at the end of the day, 6 months later, we have 2 games running, and they're each costing us about $70,000 a month to run in Amazon AWS, and that was even with automatic scaling going up and down. You had to keep the databases there. So the business was not too pleased with that because those games were not making $70,000 a month. We decided to bring that back in-house. We spent about $70,000, actually a little less, on gear, put it in one rack in our data center, and those games were running twice as fast as they ever did in Amazon. And that made the business a little bit sketchy on going back into the cloud again.
Yeah, but roll the clock forward, 12 months or 18 months, you went back and looked at cloud options again, and there were some business drivers with free-to-play.
Right. Well, the business drivers for going to the cloud again was scalability. So after our sort of unfortunate cloud experience, we tried to go down another product line, which was streaming games. And that was even more impossible in the cloud because we needed GPU-enabled units in Amazon, which is really expensive. And so we did it all in-house. We ended up signing contracts for data center space, bought hundreds and hundreds of servers. And, that business line never really took off. So at the end of the day, we were holding the bag with all the racks and racks of data center space, hundreds of servers that with NVIDIA graphics cards in them that are completely useless for anything else.
For games that may have been a smash hit or
right.
Turned out to be
yeah,
nice.
and then the streaming product, the technology was not there to support. Gaikai on Live didn't really make it either. So it's not just because we were bad. It was a tough nut to crack.
So hybrid starts to make sense at that point, right, where you can have a mix of on-demand as well as a mix of legacy IT infrastructure.
Right. We were really interested in being able to utilize some of our own infrastructure that we had and expertise. Obviously we have large 3 data centers, big data centers. We have experienced network tech engineers, DBAs. We have very nice, fancy F5 load balancers that work great. We have 40 gigabits of upstream bandwidth. We wanted to take advantage of that, but we also wanted some flexibility in scaling. So we started looking around at some private cloud providers, ones that we could connect, make a backend connection to our data center.
Right.
And
we ended up at Blue Box. So Big Fish Games ended up contracting with us last year to deploy a hybrid cloud where there's a mixed environment between our 2 data centers, cross-connected. You want to tell us a little bit about what lives in each organization's facility, how it's connected,
right.
What pieces did you need to maintain to be successful?
Yeah, so what we really knew is that, virtualized databases are not such a great idea, and bare metal is kind of the way to go at the current time. So we wanted to run our own databases and our own infrastructure. We wanted to use our own bandwidth and our own load balancers because we can take advantage of the APIs to automatically spin up things there. But we wanted to move the application servers because the other challenge with free-to-play games is that, right now we're launching a game a week, and most of these will not hit, but one of them is going to, and when it does, we're going to need to build 100 application servers like in 15 minutes to support it. So in comes Blue Box and hybrid cloud, and that we have all our application servers over in their cloud. We got 2 10 gig cross connects because they happen to be in the same data center as our data center is in Seattle.
Two of the same data centers.
Yeah, and also they have a facility in Ashburn, and so do we, so we can expand out there as well. So we're using the cross connects. We use the application servers over in Blue Box's cloud. They are now configured as nodes in our F5. They talk to the databases in our data center, and the games connect to our load balancers and use our upstream bandwidth.
So you're dynamically spinning up capacity inside of Blue Box's cloud using your configuration management to configure load balancers in your facility via that cross connect, and you're transiting all the egress.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah, and even better, we were able to leverage all our existing CF engine configurations on the virtual images that we spin up in Blue Box's cloud. So it was really easy to make that happen.
Excellent. What other design considerations went into this? IT infrastructure, contracts, things that made you think that hybrid was the right way to go?
Yeah, like I said, we've been doing this for a while, and we have a lot of data center space and a lot of expertise in-house. We did poke around in OpenStack a little bit, but OpenStack is pretty new, and about this time last year when we started to look into it, and all those sites that say, spin up OpenStack in 15 minutes, well, it took a little longer than that, actually, in most cases. And we found we could probably do it, but we were way too busy, and I couldn't dedicate like half of my team to building this thing up and making it enterprise-like for 4 or 6 months, or however long it would take them. It would take them at least that long. We need to get to market now, because the game industry is really competitive, and if a game is a month late, I mean, somebody else is going to take it over with the same game, and then you get no traction. So it was time to market, really.
Yeah.
We needed to get to market fast, and leveraging OpenStack and a excellent provider such as Blue Box really helped us along that path.
Nice plug. Thank you. I appreciate that. So time to market. So time to market.
We're paying them, actually.
Technically, yes. Time to market was one of the main considerations. You looked at on-prem. You obviously had some experience with public, so hosted made sense for you guys to get on board right now.
Yes, indeed.
So now I'm going to shameless plug. Why Blue Box?
Well, Blue Box had a number of things that we found attractive. Like I said, we were pretty convinced we needed to do some kind of hybrid cloud to be able to leverage our own data center space and expertise, but have some scalability out there. We knew we wanted some kind of back-end, out-of-band connection to whatever provider's network we would be partnering with. So we started looking at vendors, and we also early identified some of these cloud frameworks. A couple years ago, CloudStack seemed interesting and OpenStack seemed interesting. They were in the same space. But in the last year, OpenStack really took over that. Got the industry support, and the commits to the repository has really skyrocketed. So we're also convinced that we wanted to go to the OpenStack because we really felt that OpenStack was the, where we think OpenStack is now, or I do, OpenStack is now where Linux was in 1997 or where VMware was in 2001.
Adoption.
At those times, people thought you were kind of crazy to use this, like, who are these hippies running this open source operating system? You guys are crazy. You need to use Microsoft. Microsoft, that's the only thing. Well, look at us now. And same thing with VMware. People thought that was crazy, but that's the industry standard these days. And I'm pretty convinced that OpenStack is going to become the industry standard in the years to come. So given that, we wanted to use OpenStack. And so we looked at several providers. Only a couple of them were supporting OpenStack. And among those, meeting with the Blue Box guys, we found their data center was in the same location as ours, which made cross-connects very easy and low latency. Latency between our application servers and the database servers is really critical to the games because sometimes there's a lot of back and forth before it goes out to the client app. So that can really amplify. And then after meeting with the guys, we felt that they were an excellent partner, that we could learn about this OpenStack thing and grow with it as it became more mature.
So now we've been in deployment for about 9 months. What are the results to the business? What are the real business results?
Yeah, well, so like I said, using our traditional model of spinning up VMs and VPN accounts, it took us a month to get a new partner onboarded. Now, it takes us really a couple of hours. And we are so much faster than the business, they can't sign contracts fast enough for us. We're way ahead of them, which is a good place to be in IT. You're rarely there. So can't get comfortable now, but yeah, that's...
So great business results, but what about the user experience? So
user
you've got
experience.
500 developers out across the planet that previously had a lot of friction.
Right. Yeah, the other benefits were that now all their environments are publicly available on the internet. So when they're testing these games on their mobile environments, they can get to them. Our partners don't require VPN access because they go through the OpenStack portal to access their instances, and they can deploy the code themselves and do all the testing on all theirs. They have 2 QA environments, a stage environment and a production environment, all with full CDN support. And they're all identical except that there's more instances in production and databases are bigger. And so now we went from taking a month to deploy to a couple hours. That's really the driver, and the developers are happy.
Well, it's certainly not all unicorns and rainbows. There's been challenges.
Yeah, OpenStack is still maturing, I would say, and there's a couple of oopsies along the way. We had, some servers go down on us. Won't go into the details of that, but for a couple of hours, it makes the business a little nervous because this is new technology. So that's probably our biggest challenge going forward is convincing the business that this is really a stable technology and it's going to be the platform of the future.
So any team culture challenges with bringing on this new technology?
There are some because it's so new, and we still have partners that are not employees that can get console access on instances that technically have access to some of our shared services. That makes the traditional IT guys pretty nervous and the InfoSec guys pretty nervous. But I think we've put enough guardrails around it to keep it in good shape.
What about the general transition? Now you're using cloud technologies on a daily basis from really 100% traditional IT.
Well, I mean, the kicker there and to businesses that instead of paying Amazon $70,000 a month to support one game, we now have about 30 games running on our OpenStack platform, and let's just say it's costing less than that to support about 30 games.
What about other workloads planned for this cloud?
Yeah, the next thing is self-service, and I think there needs to be a little bit of growth with our internal developers to be able to manage self-service themselves. But that's really the DevOps model going forward. They have to understand better where their code is going and what it's doing when it gets there. So really, it actually is it's helping drive that model. And so our next steps are to be able to just hand off a quota to each one of our developers and say, here, you guys, run with it. Don't call us unless the instance doesn't start. Otherwise, it's your code and it's your problem.
Right. And I think my sales team's in the audience, so I have to ask the obvious question. What are your expansion plans with this fine product?
Well, our expansion plans are we're launching a game a week that may accelerate. And we're hoping that several of those games become hits and that we are forced into expanding.
Excellent. So that kind of summarizes my questions. I think I'd like to open it up to the audience for Q&A, either to Big Fish or to Blue Box. Anything we can tell you about the environment? Just grab the mic. Any questions? No. Somebody's walking.
Or you can yell.
You can yell.
Can you shed some light on how we are deploying that application under the no instances and also how we are configuring?
That's a question for me, I take it. Yeah.
Repeat the question. Yeah, repeat.
The question was, how are we deploying code to the instances and configuring them? So we have been using CF Engine to configure instances. So as soon as we bring up a node, it classifies itself by the name of the host. So it automatically installs all the packages it needs once you spin out that VM. That's done in less than 10 minutes. Then our release team utilizes Jenkins mostly to both hit the APIs on our F5s to configure the nodes and VIPs and deploy code. And actually what we end up doing is we hand that, once they configure the Jenkins jobs, we hand that off to the game producers, and then we're totally out of it. So it's all, we let these guys that have no idea really what's going on, the game producers really have no idea what technology that's going on. They hit the button, and if it doesn't work, they can hit the back button. And we never have to get involved.
What level of key orchestration is involved with that? Can you give a little bit more what OpenStack actually doing?
Yeah, what level of orchestration, and are we using Heat, I think is the question.
What other components are you using?
Yeah, this is, we're not using Heat in this deployment. This is primarily Nova, Neutron, Horizon, Keystone, and Glance. Yeah, so it's a pretty standard installation, primarily focused on compute. We have a mixed environment with a lot of existing IT infrastructure on the storage side, so they're leveraging a lot of that's there. Yes, sir.
So, what kind of experience have you had with PCI audits? I mean, I'm sure you're handling a lot of credit information.
Yeah.
One of the things that you've had to
So we can both answer that. Why don't you go ahead first?
Yeah, so
Oh yeah, sorry. What experience have we had with PCI audits and other compliant organizations?
right. Since most of this is in the mobile world, it's not our problem. Because we're tied by Apple. You can't do anything except send your money through Apple and hope that they give us some of it. It's similar with Android, so we don't deal with that at all. There are PC applications as well, because we're pretty equal opportunity. Those ones we do have an e-commerce system, but that one is well protected and sequestered behind a set of firewalls, and then it just by API call sends that the payload, this customer bought these many chips or diamonds or whatever into the servers, so that can show up in the game. But the interaction between the game servers and the client game itself actually there's no e-com that way. The e-com goes this way and then back around. So we've been in pretty good shape with PCI actually.
And for Blue Box, we host a lot of HIPAA and PCI-based companies, compliant companies. We do regular PCI audits with several of those companies. We're SOC certified and have a 10-year operating history of compliance and security. So it's very, very common for us. Almost on a monthly basis, we have somebody doing a tour and an audit. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What release of OpenStack are you running?
Yeah.
And the second one is, how big is the private cloud?
So the question is what release and how big. So this is based on Havana, and this particular instance is still fairly small. It's under 20 nodes. So, and we have lots of those for lots of different customers. Our primary focus is building lots of private clouds for lots of customers, rather than building one large cloud for public consumption.
Yeah, we expand with Blue Box by the hypervisor. So when we need more nodes, if our hypervisors are full, we get a whole one U box, and that shows up. It's great compared to Amazon because the oversubscription is completely in our control. So we can oversubscribe all we like, which is great. I mean, I think we have some future plans maybe to put QA and stage environments on a certain set of hypervisors and oversubscribe the hell out of those, and then keep our production ones a little bit more one-to-one.
Yeah. And we're able to
one plus.
Yeah, one plus. Yeah, we're able to give that level of control to the customer, where they can manage the subscription rate or use host aggregates to focus workloads towards a particular part of the fleet. So it's actually much more flexible than a lot of the standard.
Yeah,
packages.
so we have to Big Fish people and my admins, we have full access to the API and CLI tools. What we expose to our partners is just the interface, and they usually just go into the portal and get a console to check out why their code is broken. But they have a much limited access, which is perfect. It's exactly what we needed.
Yes. Could you step to the mic? I can't hear that far. I'm sorry.
How do you provide high availability within OpenStack?
Yes. So we have a distributed control plane. Our product is based on a 3-node architecture initially. So every private cloud gets 3 nodes, and that's where we do HA for the control plane. We slice a little bit of the capacity off of those first 3 nodes for the Nova and for Neutron and the HA databases. We have the 3rd node there as an arbiter for the Percona database. And we're using ucarp on Neutron for HA failover and HA Rabbit for all the queues. So those first 3 nodes, we shave a little bit off, and then every node that adds onto the cloud has full surface capacity.
Correct.
Repeat the question is, what were the challenges with? I think was there any challenges in the integration between the split environments of Blue Box and Big Fish, where your databases were in your data center?
Yeah, I mean, so it was a little challenging it was easy on one hand because that's what the DBAs wanted to do, because they like their bare metal and their server and everything. The biggest challenge, I think, was just the networking component and the access controls. It's all MySQL, Percona, MySQL. And they like to keep those access controls really tight. And when we first deployed, there was a little bit of weirdness through the Neutron networking layer. At first, it was all netted through one IP, and then we solved that problem. And I think we're going to actually solve that problem a little bit better coming up here in the future. But the access controls, and the other thing that we were concerned about was latency. And since we're, I think, 4 floors between each other in a high-rise data center, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's land speed between the two. Yes, sir.
You had mentioned host aggregates and availability zones. Did you guys have to customize the OpenStack configuration that was provided by Blue Box to your workloads?
No, it's actually part of our normal product. So if they need to express host aggregates, we actually do that configuration for them. Or if they want to change the subscription weight, we can do that for them. We don't. They don't actually modify the underlying OpenStack. So we build and maintain the entire OpenStack infrastructure and give them the API, UI, and CLI, and then do all the management.
Right, but at some point you have to listen from them, or they have to know that we
Yep.
we have to
Yeah.
upload a certain type that needs to be that OpenStack has to be configured a certain way
Yep.
for us to run that. So how does that work once you guys signed up? I mean, you guys listen to that from them, you find out what your use cases are, your workload, is how you configure it for you, or how that.
Yeah. So the following question is, what was the relationship there? That obviously we're doing advanced things with OpenStack. How does the customer know to communicate with us, and how does Blue Box know what the customer needs? So part of our engagement is that we work very closely with each of the customers. We know that this is a big cultural as well as technological challenge for customers to move from traditional IT into an OpenStack-based public or private cloud. So our value add is we really sit down with the customer and understand what their business case is, understand what their workload is, and work with them through that. We keep everything pretty well productized, but we can change a little bit in some parameters, like the type of hardware. We'll move to SSDs for some types of workloads, or SATA drives for other types of workloads, or different CPUs. But it's all really based on the relationship and understanding the business. Does that answer your question? Any more questions? Yes, sir.
Deploy an instance of OpenStack for each customer? Is it a shared
That's right.
OpenStack?
That's right. It's an instance of OpenStack for each customer. This really contains the failure domain. So each customer has a contained control plane and service plane where they can spin up, of course, containers or compute instances or heat orchestration as we've just deployed, or Cinder. So we keep everything in that scope. Our special sauce is the back-end management. Is the bare metal provisioning, is the inventory management, is the tied-in support systems. So that's where we do it. We're doing 100% community OpenStack, but it's dedicated per customer. And that way, if something, an upgrade or a failure, it's not Big Fish isn't affected by some other customers.
Yeah, it's really isolated enough. So even it's one OpenStack instances, one game pretty much can't affect the other game because they have their own nodes. Yeah. They would have to do something really horribly bad to affect the full OpenStack infrastructure. And
back to the gentleman over there who asked about PCI, this is why a lot of PCI and HIPAA customers like this deployment model. It alleviates the shared infrastructure concern. It makes those audits much, much easier. So it's much easier to control security in that model. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You got any templates for network environment, like using SDN kind of?
The question is, do we have any challenges with
Over the network environment,
over the network environment?
kind of it, like technology after the
Well, yeah, so the question is, do we have any challenges with the network environment after we've deployed this? Well, I think that's actually the primary challenge. I think Neutron is probably one of the most difficult components in OpenStack to effectively manage at scale. And there's a lot of, there's gotchas in there, and I think that's our primary challenge has been in deploying and managing and maintaining Neutron. I think the compute's very stable, Swift is very stable. Even some of the newer components that are coming out, they're stable, they're easier to manage, but Neutron is still where we spend a lot of our energy.
Yeah, I can expand on that. A little bit. When we first spun up our proof of concept with these guys to see if we wanted to actually do business with them, the latency was pretty bad, enough that it would have made some of our games fail.
OVS.
Yeah,
early version of
we
OVS.
knew from our previous experience with Zen that Open vSwitch was a problem, and we asked these guys, "Hey, is that part of one of the components?" They're like, "Why, yes, it is."
Why, yes.
And so we forced them to upgrade Open vSwitch to 11? I can't remember the versions, but
What's it? 111. Yeah, 111.
and that
Yeah.
I wouldn't say eliminated the latency problems, but it made it acceptable.
Manageable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, who's ready for some lunch?
Hey.
All right. Hey, I want to say thanks for coming and listening to us talk about OpenStack and how we got there. And if you have any additional questions, we'll be standing up here for a few minutes. We appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you around the conference. Thank you.
Thank you.